Hi, Chris Toy here, and tonight we are going to do some quick stuffed pasta creations. So let's get started. We're going to start with a really quick and easy sauce. I'm going to just heat up a tablespoon or so of olive oil. And to the olive oil, we're going to add some spicy sausage. I'm going to cut that right up. And if this were tomato season, I would be using fresh tomatoes. But we are a long way off from fresh tomato season. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to brown this up, and we will add some pureed tomatoes, and the flavoring from the sausage will go a long way toward flavoring our sauce. If you want, you can add, at this point, you could add some other chopped vegetables, onions, carrots, Brussels sprouts, sliced peppers. Those would all be good, but we're going to keep it really simple here. So that's browned up nicely. So I'm going to add some pureed tomatoes. Now you could use sliced tomatoes, but what I have found is if you use sliced tomatoes, your sauce won't come out as thick. So let the company do that for you. And we'll just mix that right in. We're going to let that simmer while we're making our pasta, but those flavorings in the sausage will go right in there. By the way, I'm using Johnsonville spicy sausage, hot sausage. You can use sweet sausage if you want. And I'm just going to turn this right down to low. And I'm going to turn this into a vodka sauce. I'm going to put in a half a cup of vodka. By the time this is ready to eat, we will have boiled off the alcohol. There we go. All right. There. So that sauce will be ready when we, let me just put that over there. So let's make some pasta dough. So really simple. I'm going to use the processor. I'm going to put in a little less than a cup of flour, 1 large egg, just like that, and then we'll just process this up. And the texture that we want is small pellets. So we want the dough to look like couscous, and uncooked couscous, drier. If we want the dough to be a little wetter, we would use cooked couscous as our guide. But for this one, I'm going to want my pasta a little bit drier. And this doesn't take very long. If I had put in too much liquid, if my egg were too big, or I didn't have enough flour, I'm using all-purpose flour, by the way. If I didn't have enough flour, I would just have to add a little bit more flour. I would only do it a tablespoon at a time. And the same for if I wanted to add water or liquid. I don't put any oil into my dough. What I have found is that if I do that, it just makes the dough too slippery to go through the rollers. So you can see the dough is soft, but it doesn't stick to my hands, and that's what you want. You want a nice soft dough, and if you want to, you can knead that a little bit longer, but you don't need to. And it's a good idea to let it rest for a few minutes. You can put it in a Ziploc bag, you can seal it up into a container, whatever you'd like to do. I'm going to just look at our sauce for a bit here. And that's simmering nicely. Smells great. So let's make another type of dough. We're going to make a spinach dough. And I'm going to take just a handful. This is baby spinach. And you could use other greens if you want. And I'm going to put in a full cup of all-purpose flour here, and that's because the spinach has a fair amount of moisture in it, and so you want to make sure that you have enough flour. So we'll just process that dry, and you want to do that so that the blade really chops up that spinach. Some recipes say you should cook the spinach beforehand and drain it. To me, it just seems like you're pouring off a lot of the flavor and nutrients if you do that. So I just put it right in. So there you have the spinach, and it doesn't look like much. You know, it just has a slightly green tinge. But now, I'm going to put in an egg. Put that right in. And watch, this will turn bright green as it processes. And it takes a little bit longer to do this simply because the moisture in the spinach gets released gradually. So I will give this a little stir here, get it off the edges. But you can see the spinach color is working its way into the dough. And I can tell just from feeling it that this is going to be very moist. And you can tell that because what happens is it starts to try to form a ball. So I'm going to take some of this out. Try not to cut my fingers as I take it out. And we'll just process this here. So this is too wet. See how it's kind of formed that clump? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a tablespoon of flour there. Unless let's break that clump up. So you can see with the spinach, you can actually make more dough per a given egg and volume of flour. So that's a little bit dry. See how fine the particles are? So what I'll do is I'm just going to add some of my wet spinach pasta. And I'll just work that in. Oh, that's looking good. That's looking good. I'm gonna add one more here. Not too much more. There. So there it is. And we'll test that. We'll grab some of this. We'll form it into a ball of dough. Again, see, it's getting nice and smooth, but it's not sticking to my hands. So let's pull this out now. There we go. So I'll show you in a minute. So we have this. This is the dough that's kind of left over. It's still wet, too wet. But we'll compare this with the amount of dough that I made, just the plain dough. So there's our plain dough, and here's our spinach dough. So you can see it's almost twice as much, and that's because of the moisture of the spinach. All right, so let's put these in to rest a little bit more. So this is stuffed pasta tonight. So we're going to make some filling, and the first filling that we'll prepare is we're going to use the rest of our spinach here, along with some ricotta cheese as our filling. I like to use whole milk. I think it tastes better than the skim milk. It's pretty simple, and we're going to put in some Italian blend cheese and a little bit of Parmesan as well. So let's take some ricotta, put that right in, and some parm. If you use a block of hard Parmesan or Romano cheese, you'll want to either grate that or chop it up before you do this part. And then we'll put in some of this cheese blend. Has some mozzarella, some Romano, Fontina, some other cheeses. Great flavor. And then we'll take some spinach, And we're going to put in some salt and pepper. And I like to use this Trader Joe's Everyday Seasoning. Maybe like a half a teaspoon or so. You can decide how much of that you want to put in. Then what we'll do is we're going to pulse this. Let's mix that right in. Let's go cheese. There we go. So we just want to get it so that spinach is, we don't want to puree the spinach as much as we just want to get that mixed in with the cheese. There we go. Just a couple more pulses. Let's see, so the leaves they're chopped, so it's not cut up quite as finely as the spinach was for the pasta. Doesn't take much to make a lot of filling. It'd be tempting to taste this, but since I'm on camera, I won't lick the spoon. There we go. So let's make another filling, another fun filling. And what I'll do is I'm going to make a sweet potato filling. And what I use is this is a boiled or a microwaved sweet potato. So I've softened up the potato. This is a great use for leftover potatoes. And I'm going to puree that up. There we go. We'll have a little extra flavor there in the spinach, but that's okay. And I'm going to put in just a little bit of cheese. That's optional. You can put in other cheeses like Parm. And mix. And a little salt and pepper. At this point, if you wanted to, you could put in a little bit of maple syrup. Would be good. Maybe a teaspoon of maple syrup for some sweetness. But remember, this is a sweet potato, so it's pretty sweet. So we want this to be more pureed up. You saw I put in the whole thing. I put in the skin and everything else. So we'll just mix that in. You see that's wet, see how pulling that ball? Alright. There. So I'm just going to put this right here. And we'll make one more filling. And I've saved that for last for a good reason. Is we are going to make, so there's the filling, that's the sweet potato filling. And what we'll do is we are going to make a filling with smoked salmon. So smoked salmon is probably the strongest flavored one here. So let's just add a little more cheese to that. And our cheese mix. $2 for $5 today at Shaw's. And some Parmesan. And I'm not going to put in any salt and pepper because the fish is really well seasoned. So I'll cut that up a little bit. And it doesn't take a lot of salmon here to get a pretty strong flavor. So if you go light on the salmon, you'll be fine. All right, one more time with that. All right, so I'll just leave that in there for now. So we've got 3 fillings. We've got our basic spinach and ricotta. We have our sweet potato, and we have smoked salmon. So let's take a look now at our sauce. See how we're doing there. Oh, it smells great. It's just made tomato just really makes a big difference. So we could eat that sauce now if we wanted to, but the longer it cooks, the better. So we'll do that. So let's make some pasta. So our pasta dough has been sitting for a little bit. Let's make some tortellini first. So what I'll do is I'll take a golf ball size piece of dough. Here's our roller. You can roll this up by hand if you want, but I like to use my handy dandy Atlas pasta machine. And we have it on the widest setting. Just put it through like that. And we'll gradually bring this out. See if it's nice and dry. It's not too wet. No oil. If you wanted to, you could salt the pasta dough if you wanted to. But what I do is I salt the water pretty heavily. All right, so here we go. And I went to the thinnest setting, and this is pretty straightforward. We'll just cut a few circles. We'll make it easy. I'll make one of each, just for fun. And then we can recycle that dough if we wanted to. Let's cover that. We don't want it to dry out too much. So, pretty easy. We'll just take a teaspoon of filling. This is the spinach. We'll fold that right over. And we'll just press that closed, make a half moon, and then I'll push down here and I'll just bring that together, overlap it a bit, give it a squeeze, close that tortellini right up. So let's grab some sweet potato. So what you want to do is you want to be careful not to overfill, because if the filling gets on the edge of your wrapper, it won't seal. And then when you go to cook it, it'll all leak out. You don't want that. So there you go. Same drill, just like that. And then we'll do one of our salmon. Again, being careful not to fill it too much. You can smell that salmon already. There. So, tortellini ready to go. We'll save that. We won't cook those right away because now let's make some ravioli. And I'm going to take a larger ball of ravioli for the ravioli, because we're going to put it onto a ravioli form. So I'll just make this into a kind of a tube. Roll this right through. That's good. And again. If this starts to stick or it doesn't stay together, you will know that you made it too wet. And I would recommend that you don't try to continue, but that you actually feed this back into your kneading or your food processor. So there we go. So I'm going to fold this. I'd like to get 2 straight edges. So that's why I folded that in half. See the straight edge coming out here? And then we'll get one more straight edge in here. And we'll hope that I made a large enough piece. So what you want is you want to make sure that your dough covers the frame, and this is just simply to press down, just like that. Oops. Here we go. So that just kind of tells us where those depressions are. So I'm going to put that aside, and now we'll fill this. And let's see, we've got 3 fillings, we've got 12 of these guys, so let's do it. So here's sweet potato. Now with the ravioli, because they're much bigger, you can get carried away. You can, I'd put in a full teaspoon there. There we go. But again, you don't want it to get onto the edges, because we are going to want to seal those. But we can definitely put in more. Oops, not that much more. There we go. Okay. Maybe a little more there. All right. And let's get our salmon. There we go. So it's going to be a potpourri. All right, so some of you are wondering, well, what about the spinach? What about that spinach pasta? So let's do that. So let's grab some spinach pasta. Grab a big chunk here. Set this back here. highest setting to start with. Just push that right out. Going thinner and thinner. I'm not pulling it out, I'm letting it just feed. You want to go gradually. There we go. And let's get our straight edges. That's good. Get this straight edge. So let's get this. And while I'm finishing this up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my water boiling. There we go. And I'm going to need a rolling pin here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the form to cut the pasta. So you can see what's happening there. Just kind of tilted it. So now I can, oops, come on, we'll lift this out. I'll have an interesting pasta to roll there. All right, and then what I'll do is I'm going to roll right in between here. See? So we're cutting it. There. And then what we'll do, this is the fun part. Just gently push out from the form our ravioli. There we go. We'll just separate those out. There we go. Don't ask me which is which. We'll just, I like them all, so it doesn't matter to me. But if you wanted to, you could, you could color code them. If you want something other than green or white pasta, you could use sweet red pepper. You wouldn't even have to cook it. You could puree that up just like you did with the spinach. It has a fair amount of moisture. So you could make a red pasta. So there you have some different pastas here, ready to cook. So let's, you know what, rather than clump them up in my hands, let's go over here. So what we want to do, I mentioned this earlier, we want to heavily salt our water. So this is a couple of quarts of water. And what I'll do, I'm going to put in about a teaspoon per quart of water, of salt, right in that water. There we go. And the water is boiling. So what we'll do is this is a cool thing. If I were just kind of cooking this on my own, I would just throw these guys in, wait 2 minutes, and then I would drain the water off. But if you're cooking for a group, and you have people that are vegetarians, you have people that are omnivores, or someone's allergic to something, you can pick these individual cookers up at IKEA. I think they're like $5 for one of these. They're stainless steel. So I'm going to cook these up now. So there we are, we're boiling away. And the tortellini will cook fastest because they have less filling, and there's half as much dough. So I would put these in after I put in the ravioli. And here's our ravioli. So we'll put these guys in like that. And when you put these in, what you're going to want to do is just give them a little bit of a stir, and that will keep them from sticking together. One of the things you don't want to do is you don't want to put oil in the water. Contrary to popular belief, oil in the water does not have anything to do with whether or not the pasta sticks together. The way to get pasta to not stick together is to give it a stir just as you put it in. And what happens is the hot water will seal the surface of the pasta, and after about 5 seconds, it simply won't stick together. All right, and just 2 minutes for that. While we're waiting for that to do its 2 minutes, we'll check out our vodka sauce. There we go. All right. All right, see, you can see these guys are turning into little pillows. All right, I think it's been a couple minutes now. So let's drain these guys. See, now I don't have to reboil water. I can just take this and pour these guys out. Oh, they look good. All right. And we'll put these guys in just for a minute or so. Give them a quick stir. Here's our ravioli. Very colorful. Take some sauce. Yum. Sprinkle on some parm. If you want to put other cheeses, go for it. All right. So let's see, we're going to do this, and then I'm going to show you, after I taste this, we'll do one more sauce with the tortellini. So, ooh, this is hot. Oh, it'll be interesting to see which one this is. Sweet potato. One more. Salmon, really good. All right. So let's so these guys are done. So I'm going to shut this water off for now. So I just want to show you really quickly. So here's a really nice bolognese style meat sauce. But what I can do is by adding a half cup of cream or half and half, more or less, you decide what you want, we can turn this into a vodka cream sauce. So now kind of that acidic tomato edge is taken off. And let me just reach over. There we go. And I'm going to grab me some tortellini. This will be a small helping. There we go. A sample. Here's my cream sauce. If you want it lighter, add more cream. If you want it heavy, add heavy cream. All right. I always like to have some cheese. So there's some cheese. All right. Yum. Let's see which one of the three is this. Spinach. I got all three. So there you have it. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.